Hey everyone, welcome back. This is New Slang. I'm your host, music journalist Thomas Mooney. We're kicking off this week being joined by Norwegian singer-songwriter Malin Pettersen. I watched a YouTube video where she introduces herself like 4 times, trying to get it right because it's so easy just to, Americanize her name as Malin Pettersen. So anyways, she's releasing a new album called Wildhorse that is out October 16th. I really enjoyed talking with Malin about the record and her being from Norway and being introduced to Americana, quote-unquote Americana and country music. And obviously this new album here, Wildhorse, it is a great listen. But I do think there is some added value in her not having that typical country Americana artist background. It would most certainly be a good album still if she was from, California or the Carolinas or something. But her having that atypical background, being from and living still in Norway, I think it contributes to this earnest love and appreciation for country music that sometimes we don't see as insiders. It's easy to take things for granted when you're surrounded by them, and it's only whenever someone else points them out that you actually can see that beauty. You hear that in a lot of these songs that have this like really rosy glow to them. Songs like California or Arkansas or Wild Horse Dream or Let's Go Out. And of course, at the same time, I think it's important to hear artists like Malin because they are a testament that even when you're from another part of the world, there's that universal truth within this music and that we can all relate to these things regardless of where you're from. They're an essential aspect of the human condition. And as I've said about 100 times now, being genuine is way more important than being authentic. And Malin has that in spades. I really consider this album to be kind of a journey album. There's that physical movement in traveler songs like California and Arkansas. But then there's that age and growth in songs like the closing standout song, Queen of the Meadow. And then of course, there's other examples like Hometown or Wild Horse Dream that are really in both camps. And through it all, there's this beautiful richness to the album's sonic palette. There's a warmth to these songs that's captured. You feel the room and the bleed between instruments. I think you can hear that California Laurel Canyon sunshine on songs like Let's Go Out and Arkansas, while there's more of that iconic Nashville sound on songs like Hometown or Mr. Memory. This is just a really great record. It's out this Friday. Today's presenting sponsor is Desert Door Texas Sotol. If you know anything about me, it's probably that I'm from the heart of West Texas and absolutely love everything about West Texas. And that's really why I love Desert Door so much. You may be asking yourself what exactly Sotol is. Well, it's a premium spirit that's similar to a tequila or a mezcal, but for my money, it's a little bit more refined and smooth. There's a sweetness and faint hints of vanilla and citrus, and it's also as versatile as your garden variety vodka. At its core, Desert Door is authentically West Texas. They go out and harvest Sotol plants from the wild and bring them back to their distillery over in Driftwood, Texas. So next time you're at your local liquor store, get a bottle of Desert Door. For more info, check this episode's show notes. If this is your first time listening to New Slang, I strongly suggest hitting that subscribe link. If you just did, I'm giving you a virtual high five right now. New Slang is over on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher Radio, and basically any and everywhere you listen to podcasts. Go check out the New Slang merch store, grab a koozie, some stickers, buttons, and magnets. Any bit helps. I'll throw a link into the show notes. And if you're into playlists, go check out Tom Mooney's Cup of Coffee and the Neon Eon playlists over on Spotify. The Neon Eon is for all your nostalgic 90s country needs, which there's going to be more Neon Eon related stuff coming your way pretty soon. And then Tom Mooney's Cup of Coffee is a regularly updated mix of new Americana and country music. It's also a really great hint at who I have coming up on the podcast. So yeah, go follow those. Right, I think that wraps it up here. Let's get on to the interview. Here is Malin Pettersen. You have this new record coming out here in just a couple, or next week. I'm going to say a couple weeks, but it's literally next week. And
yes.
Yeah, so like this year's just been so strange. I've been starting all these off with how has the pandemic made you like switch gears and adapt for releasing an album?
Oh, wow. It's, I was looking at a pretty busy year. And when everything kind of happened really fast, I was in the States. I was in New York. And in one day, it went from, yeah, sure, just stay and, go to Austin and I was supposed to do South by Southwest. And I had decided to go there even if the festival was canceled before, stuff really started getting bad. And in one day it went from, yeah, sure, it's going to be fine, just be careful, till you need to come home right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I did. And, as I was on the flight, Trump started shutting down for international travel to the States. So that was like probably one of the last planes that actually came to pick people up. And then I went home and just stayed indoors with my 2 kids and my guy for like 4 months, which was kind of crazy. And what was good for me, I felt really fortunate because instead of, having an album release that was supposed to be in April, which would have been just like, I would have had to change gears really fast. Mm-hmm. It was kind of okay, this is happening. I do have singles coming out, but I can promote those online and, do interviews like this. And I still have a lot of time to plan for a different kind of album release. And so that's kind of what I tried to do. I'm not really good at change when there's like huge change like that. And I know that about myself. So I decided really early on that you cannot think about or dwell with the fact, like, what if I did get to go to South by Southwest? What if I did meet all of these people? And what if I could go out on tour? It's just like, you cannot think about that at all. You just have to switch gears right now and start, just acting what the situation is. And for me, I think that was really important.
Yeah, it's so weird because obviously especially like in music, everything is tied more so to touring than anything else now.
Yeah.
And, it's like you used to go on tour because you released a record and now you release a record so you can go on tour. Right. And you can, so it's so weird. Like I remember like the whole South by thing, right? Whenever like the quote unquote official South by was canceled.
Yeah.
It was such a like, oh, I can't believe they've done it. And now looking back, you're kind of like, oh, they were like ahead of the game on that.
I know.
Like, that's just kind of like, because I remember I was interviewing some friends here in Lubbock. They were playing a show at the Blue Light. And I guess probably about an hour or so before we started talking, that's when they announced. And, they were kind of like, oh, well, I had like so many gigs lined up and like the drummer had a bunch of stuff lined up. And well, I guess there's probably still going to be a South by just because, there's so many unofficial shows and so many unofficial showcases and parties and all that stuff. And then it just all evaporated within a week. And that's, there's no other way to explain it other than it's just so surreal to think like, is this real life?
Surreal. I know. And it's like you say, it's so weird to look back at. And, reading my, I had a post on Instagram, which was like, I'll go and I'll do the best from what the situation is going to be. I'll be careful. I'll play for 10 people. I don't care. I just want to go there. And now it's just like, what were you thinking? But we didn't know, right? We did not know how crazy it was going to be.
Yeah.
I'm just glad I got on that plane because that was like, I could have been stranded without the family. Yeah.
That would have been probably like one of those like bottom 10 stories as far as like how much, everyone's pandemic quarantine sucks,
Yeah.
but like you being stuck here in the US without your family, just like, I guess probably having to rent some kind of Airbnb
Probably.
or an apartment or something. That's so weird to think about. Would that would have been, that South by, would have been your first South by experience, or had
It
you?
would have been, it would have been my first official showcase. I've been to Austin while South by has been going on, but I have never actually attended or been a showcasing artist. But I've always wanted to do it, like, ever since I was a kid and people told me about it. One of the first people or the first person that I met, that I became friends with from the States, was Brennan Lee. And she used to live in Austin at the time. And, you know, she would talk about Austin. And then I would meet Beth Chrisman and the people that she played with in the Carper family, Melissa Carper and Jen. And it sounded like a magical place to me. And I was like, they have this huge festival. I want to go. I need to play there. Like, I need to go and just live in that atmosphere. And now it was finally going to happen. But,
yeah.
No.
Well, it's also, I guess, like what, for you, I know you're an established artist and you've been playing for forever, but for the American audience, you're very much still like breaking in. And like, I was talking with this girl the other day about her moving to Nashville and like, you know, releasing her first EP, and like you kind of just scrape away all those things that you took for granted that you moved to Nashville to begin with. And it feels like, I guess, like your awareness raises where for someone like me who goes, oh, you know what, like South by is actually still important for artists like you who are coming in and are playing for larger crowds and just getting a lot more of the American experience, I guess. I don't know, like playing in like the Americana Fest stuff, the like all those kind of more industry pushing things, like those are all important.
Yeah, and I think, you know, when I tweeted that, like, oh, it's canceled and I'm not going to hide it, I am really sad about it. Somebody tweeted back being like, well, you know, it's not that important. Like, it's not an important thing anymore, kind of, or something like that. And I was like, wait, well, for me, I don't get to meet those industry people all, like, I don't live there. They don't come to Norway all the time. I can't randomly, you know, meet some pretty important person that maybe, it's not going to break me or like make me be able to pay my rent, but it's still like, you can meet people who can help you with, you know, booking or to further develop what you're trying to do. And that's why it's important. And that's why it's really important to be in the States and have a presence there and, you know, meet all of these people that back here, I meet all of these people here, but that's because I live here. And so if I want to do the same somewhere else, I need to also be there and meet those people in person and make connections.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's like one of those things where, are you going to meet that person and they're going to make you a star? No, probably not. Cause like, that's just, it's so random like that, but meeting that person and getting the face-to-face later down the line, like when you say, do you know this person, you can go, yeah, I met them at, and like, it just, I think those little, even a 5-minute conversation can go a long way to giving that face value. And like, I don't know. So it's, I know that for myself, like since South by has been just kind of like in the backyard, and you kind of like go there and you go and you're like, oh, the crowd is awful. And like the traffic's awful. Who are all these people? You can get turned off by all that. But then like something like this, you go, oh, you know, like actually this still is important. This is still like a, something. So, so like, obviously you've been home. I think like if you asked every songwriter what they need or what they would want, this time last year, they would go, oh, just time to write. And then of course you're granted all this time, but it's not the same. It's not like, so like, what has that been like for you as far as, adapting to a time where like you do have quote unquote free time. You're stuck in the house, family, raising kids, all that stuff. But then I guess trying to fit in songwriting and art in general.
Yeah. It's been a weird adaptation thing where in the beginning I was very optimistic. I was like, yes, I'll start writing a new album. Like I'll really get into it. I'll learn all of these cool things on guitar and it'll be amazing. And then 3 weeks later I was like, I haven't even picked up my guitar. Like there was something about, well, first of all, the kids were home and I needed to put glitter on stuff with them. And then it was kind of, in the way that I work, I seldomly get to take actual time off. Like even time off is potentially time where you could get some important email that you need to answer, or something that you need to fix, somebody you need to call to make something happen, or blah, blah, blah. Or that there's always something that you should do to further promote what you're doing. So it was like, I couldn't even do that. Like there was nothing to promote. There was no show. There was still like the first single from the new album was still a long ways away. It wasn't happening yet. And so I was suddenly here with all this time and not really, I think my brain was like, wait, you can now just take time away from your everyday life, which is writing music and doing music and thinking about music 99% of the time. And instead, I kind of started getting all of these other creative ideas. So I started, buying like DIY things, like things to make with my hands, and started to think about merch ideas and how to make my own merch instead of printing and making stuff that, is what you normally do, and which I probably will in the future too. But I was trying to kind of make something of my own. And I suddenly had time to like listen to books. Yes, I listened to them. I haven't really read much, but I listened to a lot of books, listened to books about philosophy and science, which is like are huge themes that I'm very interested in. And I started drawing. And so suddenly I was finding all of these sides to myself that I haven't really explored since I was maybe in my early 20s. And it felt really nice. It felt like I was able to be a whole person again with several interests and several things to go into instead of just the music part. Mm-hmm. Because in my everyday life, that's kind of all I can afford to really put a lot of energy into. So that's been really nice. And what I have done is I've learned some songs that I've been wanting to learn for a long time, like some classic country songs. And I have rehearsed a little bit of like guitar technique. What I can feel now as I'm starting to soon play some tiny shows again and releasing the album, I can kind of feel the inspiration coming back again. And I hope that there are a lot of interesting thoughts and ideas that have been, filling up that are just kind of magically come out now and turn into great songs.
Yeah.
I hope.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting to see like a lot of people who have kind of, I hate to call it writer's block, because I think if you challenge yourself enough, you can get past the writer's block, but it's very easy to kind of just waste time and like stress or like, just be stressed out about what's around us. That whole thing that you're talking about, like where there's so many things that are out of your hands now. And it's been nice to see a lot of people go back to these original kind of inspirations. You mentioned drawing and stuff like that. Like that's been, I think a lot of people have started doing that to just find another outlet. And it all kind of, I think like if you start working with your hands, usually like that's usually the time whenever you're able to find these ideas that, because you're just kind of just thinking, right? You're just stuff that you can do that you're not like super thinking about whatever it is. But you can just daydream. And I think like that all plays into.
I totally agree. And I also, what I found is, even though I know that, music and doing this is always going to be a huge effort, it's always going to, cost money and time and effort and really hard work. I've also found that it's okay to maybe also do something else. And I want to try to save more time for that. If society, eventually here in Norway, it has started to open up a bit more because we've had low numbers, though it's starting to spike again. So, there might be a lockdown again. But I kind of want to try to remember what it felt like to have nothing to do and just keep that feeling with me, so that, every now and then when things starts getting busy again, I can maybe sit down in the couch and think, just for tonight, just relax, forget about the other stuff, draw a drawing. Like, it doesn't have to be good. It doesn't have to be anything. Just like do something else and let your brain relax and use some other part of yourself. Because that's been it's been good for my health.
Yeah, no, This episode is in part brought to you by the Blue Light Live here in Lubbock, Texas. There is a way to help A, support Blue Light, and B, get a sense of that normalcy by visiting bluelightlubbock.com, clicking on the merch tab, and getting some koozies, a vast array of t-shirts and caps, and yes, even a Blue Light flag. While it is such a bummer that live music is still on hold right now, I'm telling you, by getting some Blue Light Live merch, you're going to feel better. It just feels better wearing a t-shirt and ball cap and helping support your favorite bar. Again, that's bluelightlubbock.com. Click on the merch tab, get some merch. All right, back to the episode. A lot of these songs, it feels like this is like a traveling record, right? And like a journey album kind of, especially, I guess, using the America as like a lens for a journey. Obviously you recorded this in Nashville.
Yeah.
I guess for starters, like, did you get everything done before the lockdown happened and everything like that, before having to go?
Yeah.
Okay.
We were I'm so happy that we did. It was very, very, that would have been horrible if we were like halfway done or something. But yeah, it was done in 2 batches in 2019. So in February and September 2019. And yeah, it's kind of a journey album. And I did not know that when we started recording it. But it was very clear as we were moving through these songs that it was, and that a lot of the songs that I had been written lately and a lot of the songs that I chose to take into that session were songs that in some form talked about, traveling. If it could, very specifically be like being on a plane or driving through California, but also, my journey through life with, battling a lot of thoughts that I think a lot of young people and also older people can struggle with. I know I still do, but that you also learn a lot of things through that journey, which can help you as you grow older. And the final song on the album is about my own funeral, so that's kind of that's the end of that journey. But yeah.
Yeah, that song right there, I read that like a lot of it was also inspired by your grandparents, right?
Yeah.
I think like that's such a, especially like the Queen of the Meadow, like on your gravestone and all that stuff. That is such a, I don't know, like it's just like a beautiful lasting image. And, but it also feels like it ties back to like a time where, we had more like open landscape and stuff like that, open meadows and fields.
Yeah. That's a beautiful thing about where my grandparents lived and where my dad grew up, which is a tiny island. You're not allowed to drive a car there. They're just tractors and like 4-wheelers.
Mm-hmm.
And there are wildflowers everywhere. And Queen of the Meadow is, if you, because there's a little ferry that you have to take to this island. And when you get off of that ferry, if it's at the very right time during summer, in July and early August, you'll be kind of met by this smell from this flower, Queen of the Meadow, which just grows everywhere. And I started kind of researching this flower because I wanted to write something about it. And now I've learned that you can make like drinks from it, and you can make ice cream and jello and stuff like that. So I've started to kind of make stuff that I hope that I can sell as very luxurious merch. Luxurious meaning just that it's going to be few items. Because, yeah.
Yeah. What does it taste like? What's
it's like an almondy vanilla, but still some taste and smell that's very unique to that specific flower. So it's different, but it's sweet, but also a little stingy. I don't know. It's very difficult to explain, but it's great. It's like the best smell in the world. I personally think, at least.
Yeah, I love that. Like you can't drive a vehicle on the island.
Yeah, it's
I feel
fantastic.
like here in Lubbock, if they outlawed trucks tomorrow, you could still do that because everyone has a tractor or a 4-wheeler,
right?
Or
That's amazing.
The cliche, everyone could ride a horse somewhere. Like it would very much, like people would bitch about like not having their trucks and their cars, but they would be able to make it easily.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So I just really also love like seeing America through like a different lens, a different perspective, because like obviously you didn't grow up here, and I think that so often when you're not from a place, or when you are from a place, you take everything for granted. And then it's like not until someone from an outside perspective can point out the cool things, or like the romanticized aspects of it. And I really love some of those things that you point out throughout this record, as far as like looking at America.
Thank you.
So especially like, obviously that opener, like that's like not just you as now, like that's kind of like your lens through as a child as well.
Yeah. Yeah. That was, California is definitely a song where I had been to, I'd been to Texas, and I had been to New York, and I'd been to Nebraska, but I'd never been to California until 3 years ago. And I didn't really know what it was. Like, I thought it would be surf dudes and LA-ish. And we drove for 3 weeks. We went to San Francisco, Yosemite, LA, of course, and all the way like in between. And I was blown away by the nature. It felt like several countries in one state. It literally, not literally, that would have been crazy, but it really blew my mind. And, and also a lot of American history is so present there. And we went to different sites where the history and, the culture of Native Americans was very present. And it was very easy to imagine what their lives might have been like before the Europeans came and did what they did. And there were so many emotions, and there were so many things that I just felt like I needed to write something about and try to describe. And what I'm very, very happy about when it comes to that song is the way that the guys in the studio, and how we were able to kind of wrap that into the warm kind of soundscape that they created, which I feel helps to paint kind of that golden surrounding that I wanted to have that lyric be bathed in, kind of.
Yeah, like this record very much, it feels like that kind of like that mid 70s, not necessarily like that wall of sound, but like where you are surrounded by the I kind of like think about it like as like some tall grass, and like you got the overhanging
Yeah.
trees, and like
Yeah.
like that richness of the of I guess like what a lot of people would consider country music, like that
Yeah.
brand of like the Bobbie Gentry kind of Glenn Campbell,
Yeah.
more of that kind of
Yes.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I it makes me very happy when people say that, and that's what I really wanted. I love to record live when I do band stuff, and we were in a pretty small room and recorded most of all the songs were recorded live. Also the vocal, we had to do some vocal after as well because of like a tired voice and stuff like that. But the fact that we were in the same room with not a lot of space between us makes every instrument very tied together in all of the mics, and it makes the sound very, I think, very rich, and also very kind of present in the same moment, in the same, going the same place, because we're naturally like following each other. And I don't think we consciously went into it being like we want it to sound like a 70s Nashville country album, but I do think that studio is very much a 70s kind of studio, and we really loved the warm sounds that we got from every instrument. And so we went with that. And I think one of the words that we use the most when we try to describe what it feels like or sounds like is vibe. Like it's a vibey thing. And that's not a very specific word, but it's kind of the best one that I can come up with. And I had listened to a lot of Bobbie Gentry before I went into the studio.
What a lot of like that live presence is where you do have that bleed over from other instruments, and you can't go back and take that out. It's part of it. And obviously like that helps create all that warmth. But also what I always kind of go to is, you guys are in the same room, and there's the eye contact. There's being able to read one another is so important. It's as close to kind of playing it like a live show as possible.
Yep.
So
absolutely. And with all these songs, like we didn't know what songs we were doing until we met up in that studio and kind of decided what song to start with. So we figured all of these songs out as we went. Like we took each song, played it a little bit, tried to figure out what to do with it, and recorded from the very beginning what we did. And so what I kind of hope is that even though people can't point a finger at exactly what's creating the feel of it, I hope that what they're hearing is a bunch of people, or 5 people in a room, kind of, if somebody did a small mistake, or if somebody like fell over or something, that we all kind of laughed silently, and nobody, like the small, exactly what you're saying, like the eye contact, the fact that we were looking at each other and really following each other and moving towards the same place. And for me, I every time I listen or hear one of the songs from the album, I'm directly put back into that room, and I can smell it and see it and feel it. And I hope it can create some kind of place in other people's minds too.
Wait, okay. So you mentioned how you more or less didn't know, like, oh, these are the 11 songs we're doing, and this is how we're doing them, all that kind of stuff. There was not a whole lot of the pre-production aspect of it. It was more spur of the moment. Okay. So like how many songs did you start out with that were like maybe in the basket that you went like, okay, now we're slowly dwindling them down to a record?
So I think, because I sent some songs and the guys sent some songs, and this is actually the first album that I'm doing where I'm doing 2 non-original songs, but songs that 2 of the other guys wrote. And so I guess I sent them like a folder with maybe maybe 20 songs, 15, no, 20, I think maybe closer to 20. And some of them were just ideas. They weren't done. And I guess I got like maybe 10 from them. So there was quite a big batch of songs. Mm-hmm. And then when we met up in the studio, we kind of wrote, or Aaron, and I think maybe the guys had done this before I came there, had written out kind of a place to, like, these are the songs that are the easiest to kind of start out with, just to see like how we're getting on and to set all the sounds and stuff. And they had started out their favorites, and they had some different favorites, and I had some favorites, and we just started kind of on top of the list where somebody had a favorite song, and like, let's just try this. And then we would jump from kind of favorite to favorite. And so some songs would naturally not be tested because they were nobody's favorite. And some songs that were maybe somebody's favorite didn't get tested because, you know, we ended up working a lot on the other songs. And so that's kind of how we just went on doing this. And I had also said before we started that, because it was kind of a pressure to go somewhere else that's so far away and have a goal to finish an album. So I told them that let's just see what we end up with. Like, it can be one song, it can be an EP, it can be an album, but let's spend as much time as we feel that we need on every song, and then see kind of what we end up with. And towards the end of the first batch of recordings, that was in February 2019, we saw that we were close to having enough songs for an album. And that made us kind of like, okay, we have to make that happen because we're very, very close. And I decided to come back in September because I was going back for Americana Fest. And I had written a small batch of new songs because I felt like, you know, maybe we need this or that. And was very fortunate to go back and finish everything together with guys in the studio. But it was very much of a, like, let's try this song and see what happens. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. And also the guys were, before I went there, Misa, who was one of the producers, he called me and he was like, so what references do we have here? Like, what do you want this album to be like? What should we listen to before we go in the studio? And I had been in that studio once before, a full night of just jamming out with those guys. So what I said was, I just want us in that studio together playing music. And that's just kind of what was the goal.
Yeah, it feels very organic, and it feels like a very organic process. I think like what's really, because I feel like, okay, so obviously this is a destination record, if you will, a destination recording process.
Yeah.
And like you said, like putting the parameters on that by itself can create a bunch of pressure as far as like, if you say like, I'm recording a record and we got to get it all done in these days, X days. And then, you know, you feel like the time is just clicking by so rapidly. You kind of saying like, let's just approach it. If we get one song out of this, if we get an EP, kind of like takes all the pressure out of the room. I feel like probably in hindsight, that has to feel like one of the key decisions that kind of helped create those vibes.
Yeah, I think you're right. And it's not often that at least I get that luxury of going in the studio and not really knowing what I'm making. Cause you know, it costs money. And if I go in the studio here, it's very much, we start at 10, we're done at 6. And we go back at it tomorrow, and we need to do this song and blah, 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 blah. And so one of the kind of fortunate things too was, well, I'm going here. It's going to cost money anyways, because, you know, the flight, the place to live, and the studio, everything's already paid for. And it's going to be, it's as a, you know, personal journey and experience as well as a professional one. This was an important journey for me and an important thing for me to do to kind of get better at what I try to be. And so it was like, this is going to sound very cliche, but the process is the goal here, not necessarily getting a new album to, promote and release. But I'm very, very happy that it did end up with an album. And I do think the relaxed atmosphere around it was very much a helpful thing to make it as creative and as, creative as it turned out to be.
Mm-hmm. Well, also, how much does it help where, since previous projects, you're going back home, it's close, always kind of probably in the back of your mind is that sense of home, sense of, I gotta did I pay the water bill or whatever, that kind of thing. How important was it to that, you go to Nashville and with that soul thing in mind, and it's essentially that's all you're there for is we're cutting a record. How much did that help? Just where that's our intention is to cut songs. So I'm not necessarily worried about other things.
It definitely helped. And me and my guy, we talk a lot about this whenever I go to the States to work. We, instead of trying to make work and a family vacation happen together at the same time, we've kind of established that it's better for me to go and work and then for them to come after and to have 100% family time. And as much as I know that it's not an easy thing to be home alone with 2 kids and everything that contains, it's very important for me to make the time away count. So if I'm going to go away for 2 weeks, I need to make those 2 weeks really count. And that means trying to not think about anything else or not trying to, but just not focusing on, like you say, did I pay that bill? Or did I remember to buy bread? Mm-hmm. And of course, you're always going to miss your family and keep in contact with them and make sure that they're all right. But you need to kind of focus on what you do, because if not, you would just be leaving them and waste time. Mm-hmm. That's that would be unfair. So I think it's worked out really well, and it's made it so that I could use that time in the studio more effectively and be in the studio for longer days than I would have if I weren't away.
Yeah, I feel like it's all those little things I need to go get gas. I need to go grocery shopping. I need to do the dishes. I need to take the trash out. All those things are what you just need to cut out, right?
Absolutely. So, I do remember having one thing that was kind of on my mind, but that was very much a U.S. thing, because I don't when I was there to record, I didn't have a driver's license. I just got mine, and there's I was living off of a street off of Gallatin Pike or Avenue, I can't remember, Gallatin, and I didn't have a car, so I couldn't go to a nice cafe and get food or to buy nice breakfast and stuff like that. So I had to walk to a Kroger and just get some plastic packed weird food before I went to the studio. And people were like, have you eaten? I was like, yep, sure have. This pretty gross wrap that was dry and weird, but yep, I've had food. And that was that was an everyday challenge for me.
Yeah. I wanted to talk to y'all one more time about our new partners at Desert Door and offer up a handful of my favorite ways to drink it. Get you a Mexican Coca-Cola, have a couple of swigs, then pour yourself some Desert Door Oak aged in, toss in a lime wedge or two, or how about this? Pour some Desert Door into a mug, top off the glass with some ginger beer, squeeze in a lime, or for all you ranch water drinkers out there, get you a Topo Chico, take a couple of pulls off, and then pour in some Desert Door. Toss in a couple of lime wedges, and now you have a mighty tasty and refreshing ranch water. Remember, Sotol is as versatile as vodka and has a more refined, smooth, and a more complex palate than tequila. It's rich and balanced, and whatever your go-to drink is, it'll make it that much better. And again, it's inherently West Texas. It tastes like home. For more info on Desert Door, check our show notes. All right, that's it for Thomas Mooney's Cocktail Minute. Let's get back to the show. Okay, so is there anything else like that that's just kind of like a weirdness to America that you're like, wait, you guys do this? Like, I'm sure there's a billion big things, but I'm sure, like, what are some of the smaller little, like?
I just think, the infrastructure is very different. We have a lot of buses and trams and subways and ways to get around. That's very easy to, like, if you're in the suburbs or in, like, there's going to be a cafe or something very close to you where you can, go grocery shopping or go and get some food or coffee and stuff like that. So it's been very convenient for a person that doesn't drive. And, being there. And I remember also living at the same place. They were like, yeah, the Legion is like 2 blocks away, but you cannot walk there. I was like, okay. And like, you will get like assaulted. And I don't know if that's true. But it was still like, it was a very different, I had to kind of adapt, and my lift bill was very high. But yeah. And also, hard seltzer. That was like, that's a thing where I think it just kind of came to Norway, but I'd never, hard seltzer was a weird.
Well, see,
thing.
What's so funny about that too is like, it's a new thing for us too. Like, the last few years, which is so like, it just like White Claws just kind of became a thing. And it was like, what is this? Like, okay, I guess like
water, but with alcohol.
Yeah. And I guess like we were familiar, we've had like Topo Chico and like, that kind of water forever. And people have been mixing drinks with that forever. But like all of this, the hard seltzer explosion is such a strangeness in this time too. It's so, yeah, I need to get a sponsorship. There's plenty of hard seltzers out there to sponsor. So, definitely. So one of the things I was wanting to talk to you about too is talking with a lot of American bands who go over to Europe. They always talk about how crowds are usually a lot more attentive. They're a lot more intentional for, if you're going to a show, you're going to a show and watching. And I'm assuming a lot more like theater type of shows, more intimate type of smaller shows, or, the bigger festival type of things. While here in America, so many venues are tied to bars and honky tonks and dives and all that kind of stuff. So like, what is it like going the other way around? Was there, I don't know, I don't want to say like a learning curve, but was there like a sense of like that coming vice versa?
Oh, definitely. And also, it's different when I play a show here, I normally know kind of what kind of crowd there's going to be at the show, because I know the general Americana person-ish, what they're going to be like and what they're going to like. I mean, you never know 100%, but you kind of know that that's the crowd that's going to be there. Whilst in the States, unless you're playing at, the Legion, which, they're going to be country fans, of course, or if you're playing at some other place where, that's kind of the main thing, it's difficult for, at least for me as an outsider, to recognize kind of social markers for like, what kind of person are you? What kind of like, do you like talking in between songs? Do you not? Is that frown like a bad thing, or are you just the quite kind of type where, it's reading people is a lot different. So when you're in kind of like a bar environment, here in Norway, I would know if it was a bar where you would tell people to be quiet if they're talking, or if it's a place where you kind of know that people are just going to get really drunk and talk over the music, and kind of just have to accept it. Whilst if you're going, not just to the States, but anywhere else, you don't know that about the venue that you're playing. Mm-hmm. You don't, if people suddenly, start dancing and screaming and hollering, and you can't really like say, hey, is this kind of weird? Like, do they not like us? Or, because maybe that's just what they do for like at any concert that they go to.
Yeah.
But I also will say that unless you're traveling on a work visa, you can't really play that many shows in the States. I've done, showcases and stuff like that, and things where you can't really make any money. So I also think that I still have a long, a pretty steep curve that hopefully I was working on my working visa before COVID. And so hopefully when things start opening up again, I'll start working on that and actually doing like a proper tour. And I'll report back to you what I've learned.
Yeah, I know. Like a lot of bands who have gone over to the European tours, they always talk about just how typically attentive the crowd is. Like they're just intentionally listening. And here you can play it. And what's weird is like I know there's plenty of places where the difference between a night, as far as like a week, like if it's a Wednesday to a Thursday, can make all the difference in the same exact place. Yeah.
And I think here it also depends on if the band's Norwegian, I think people, it's more of an everyday thing. Like, yeah, we're going to this show and it's going to be cool. But it's like we can hear these people the next time they play in Oslo too. So, but if it's an American artist or an artist from some other country that you know that like, wow, this person or this band is coming here. Mm-hmm. You don't buy a ticket to that show and then talk over the show. Like there's going to be kind of a different kind, I think, of expectation from the audience at that kind of thing, for like us to be quiet and we're going to listen now because this is the one chance.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense now, actually. Yeah. Now that you say that makes a lot of sense. Like, I should have known that.
No.
Well, like also what I was wanting to talk to you about is like so this has probably been the thing that I've been thinking about most as far as when I knew I was going to talk to you. And that's like, I guess, exchange of I'm going to use quote American music because, like 90% of American music is based off of African and European music. And obviously it comes here, it morphs and transitions and blends and it goes off into these different things and becomes American music. But there has to be a lot of stuff that you kind of recognize as far as like, that traditional country song sounds a whole lot like this traditional folk song that people here have been playing for 100 years. Is there a lot of that you can like that if you do, I guess, enough homework, or if you're well in tuned enough that you can make a lot of those connections?
I think you can definitely do certain connections. I think that you would have to research it to find those very specific examples. But I talked about Beth Chrisman earlier, and I remember her telling me, 'cause she's from Alaska, she's a fiddle player, and she told me that when she was when she learned fiddle and went to this fiddle master in Alaska, I don't know what they're called. She would actually learn, songs that originated from, I think, specifically Norway and also, the Nordic countries. And that blew my mind. It was such a specific example of how music traveled and how it, now it keeps traveling. And I also have a friend and colleague. She plays what's called the Hardanger fiddle, which is a specific kind of fiddle that has like double layers of strings. And I asked her about this. Like, do you know if are there a lot of kind of crossover? And she said that there were what we call spellemen, playing people. who went to the states that immigrated, and that you can still, find traces of different fiddle tunes. And also, I have a radio show on a channel here in Norway about country and Americana and American music, and that's made me look more into this. And I have to say, I wish that a lot of the history and the things that you find as soon as you start reading about it, I wish that was more known.
Mm-hmm.
Like, not just about European music or Norwegian music and American music, but about the African, how important the African music was for what's been thought of weirdly as a white genre.
Right.
And I just feel like it's so, if we can, talk about that more openly, and which I feel is happening, at the moment in the world, I hope that people can feel that it's not as far between us as a lot of people maybe have thought.
Yeah. Well, obviously, like the banjo that originates in like the heart of Africa, right? And it's, I think it's this weird thing where so much of country music is tied to tradition, but it's like a certain tradition, and it's like kind of the whitewashed tradition, and it's But at the end of the day, too, it's like also, if people just didn't know who was playing it, they'd go, "Oh, this is the same thing." Like, yeah.
I even read, and that was, I felt so naive, and rightly so, when I read this, that someone said that, even when white people and black people had bands together, mid-century, a lot of festivals and places where you could play would be segregated. And if not by law, it would be so socially. Mm-hmm. So, even if you had a band where they were either, all black, or if they had a black member, they wouldn't be they wouldn't be welcome. And that's the same thing for the audience. Like, they maybe wanted to go to these festivals, but they didn't feel safe. And so, the white musicians prospered and went on tours and, did all of these things and played all of these places and went to all of these festivals as an audience, and looked at each other and went, oh yeah, this is a white genre. And it was like, no.
Yeah.
And I feel like, that's something that needs to be communicated.
Yeah. Well, you can just tie that down to, you mentioned the infrastructure aspect. If I can go on tour and rent a motel room and go eat at a restaurant and all that kind of stuff, and you can't, well, who's going to be going on tour? And
exactly.
So it's, I find that all interesting as well. And, I have a friend here in Lubbock who he is, his name's Andy Hedges, and he is what you would call a songster, which is, he doesn't write songs, even though I think he's written a song or two. But he basically plays like old cowboy songs. And he talks about how, a lot of these songs are all old trail songs, or old songs that you can tie to being an old Irish ballad or English folk song or whatever the case. A lot of times these songs are also where they'll split up, and you can see where, or they'll split off, or you'll see other songs where they've merged together. And a lot of times there's there's the blues version, there's like a Cajun fiddle version, and those all come from somewhere and from from all kinds of people, even though you'll think of them as, I can't think of anything specific, but it's well, it's all the same song, but just in different styles and by different people. And I think,
and I remember that being a thing that fascinated me. When I started listening to bluegrass and old time music, that was something that I found very fascinating. Like Little Maggie, there's so many versions of that song. And I was very young at the time, and I was like, wait, can you just change the lyrics like that? And I didn't understand how that song had been molded into these different versions of that song. And it's so fascinating. And I remember when I started playing country music and bluegrass, I was very conflicted about being Norwegian and playing that kind of music, because I was like, I did not grow up in, the Appalachian Mountains, and I don't have all that history. And I wrote songs about that. I have to just, be myself and trust that I can do this, blah, blah, blah. And then now, as I'm older and have more, knowledge about it, it's like, well, those people came from somewhere, and the music traveling back again to us, it's the most natural thing in the world. And the fact that America as it exists at the moment is because of things traveling and people taking culture that, from where they went and to where they came, ended up going. And that's something that, is a beautiful thing. And I think that will, it feels like it matters because you can do it even if you're not tied to like a specific place, as long as you love the music.
Yeah. Well, it's like this like long game of telephone, like where you whisper in one person's ear and then like 15 people down, it's something totally different, but like there's still like maybe a seed of truth in there. One of my, I don't know where I got this from. I don't know if it was I don't think it was one of my friends, but I'm trying to think of where, but I think it rings true is that, like, I think it was on a YouTube video actually. These guys from Mongolia were playing, and they were playing like these old Mongolian instruments, and it was just like, they're singing like essentially like cowboy songs, like old songs about like riding horses and like having horses and stuff. And I think one of the comments was about like how mountain music is still mountain music, even if it's a different mountain. And I think that's very, very true. Is like a lot of times, like mountain music's going to sound the same. Yeah. Because like, that's just how, what it's something about the mountain and not necessarily the people. I don't know if it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I was going to ask one last question here that we're going to, I guess, close out on. I saw that you had posted that you do a lot, like you've done a lot of voiceover work, and you mentioned like doing the Casey Musgraves Scooby-Doo. Okay. Like I need to hear about this. Like how did this start out? And like, how did this even, what is the, like,
what a weird career, right?
Yeah.
It's a strange thing. Well, it started out like I've been doing it for 20 years. When I was 10, a friend of my mom, she was a voice actor, and they just needed kids for this series where they had like 15 kids and they needed someone to fill the parts. And so when I got one role in that series, that was just like, there was a new kid in every episode. So they just needed, people to come in, and that kind of got me started. And it's been such a great thing to combine with making music and doing music, because it's freelance work. You can, do it when it's a good time for you and the studio. You can go in and do it. And what's been funny now, after kind of things have been going better with the music, is that I suddenly, get typecast for, Casey Musgraves or Delta Dawn in the new Trolls movie, who's also a cowboy or a cowgirl. And I have a lot of fun doing that kind of thing, where I feel like my music work kind of melts in with the voiceover work. Yeah.
I'm sure like, okay. So, I'm sure it's like you get an email or like a text message or a phone call. Casey Musgraves is doing a Scooby-Doo episode. We need you to be Casey Musgraves.
They didn't even tell me that it was her. They're just like, yeah, we need you for Scooby-Doo. And I came in and they were like, you're being Casey Musgraves today. I was like, okay, that's fun. I think I also, was like Gigi Hadid and stuff like that. There were several ones, but Casey was the one that we, thought was the most fun.
Yeah.
It's a funny job to have. I remember the first time that I went to the States, it was me and my guy, and he's a physician, a doctor. I don't know what you call it.
Doctor.
And and we were like pulled to the side, and they asked us what our profession was. And I knew that I couldn't say musician because I wasn't going there to play, and I didn't have a working visa. So maybe they would like, even if I wasn't playing, they would start asking me questions. And so they asked him first, they were like, what's your profession? I was like, I'm a physician, I'm a doctor. And they're like, okay. And they're like, what's your profession? I was like, I do Norwegian voiceovers for cartoons. And he was like, can you please step aside and take your luggage into this room? We're just going to do, we're just going to do a sweep here. It's like, great. I have to say something else next time because they don't think it's a real job.
Yeah, that's funny though. Whenever, I guess I was scrolling through your Twitter earlier just to is there anything I'm missing here?
Yeah.
I get paranoid about stuff like that. But I was like, wait, what? Okay. I saw that Casey had done that Scooby-Doo episode. And then I was like, oh my gosh, this is, I'm going to have to bring this up. So, yeah, it's been really great talking with you today about this new record and everything. And hopefully, within a year or something, when the world kind of gets a little bit more normal, we'll cross paths here in the States.
I really hope so. And I also want to say that I've been wanting to talk to you ever since I found out that you did those playlists and listened to the interviews that you've done. And I just think you're doing such great work. So thank you for everything that you,
Yeah, well, likewise. Yeah, we'll have to find the Scooby-Doo.
Yeah.
Something like that. I'll have to watch it. So
with the Norwegian.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm talking about. All right, that's it for this one. Big thanks to Malin. Be sure to check out Wildhorse out this Friday, October 16th. Check out our presenting partners over at Desert Door and the Blue Light Live. And I'll see y'all later this week.